Will there ever be a backlash to the political use of stochastic terrorism? The Pelosi attacker was clearly influenced by this. Trump has been making calls for the arrest and in some cases trials and execution of witnesses, judges, and prosecutors. We do have language to describe this when talking about Islamic terrorists. It is termed issuing a fatwa. In the West, the term is rarely used according to the original cultural definition, but it has come to mean somebody out of millions of followers is ordered to kill this person. Is there a more descriptive term than saying that Trump is issuing a fatwa? There already has been. Trump lost in 2020. Republican candidates have mostly lost every election since. And Christians' identification in the U.S. has dropped to 50. Most Americans don't approve of stochastic terrorism. Trump definitely comes across as a terrorist leader. From fight like hell to his current rhetoric, he sees violence and civil war as his only chance of staying out of prison. Calls for violence is the more straightforward language. Calls for violence have very low support. However, people are allowed to complain. One of Trump's skills is the ability to get very close to the line or even right over it without a specific statement of "I want my followers to attack this person," or, in the manner of a fatwa, declaring this person is outlawed and it is your duty to attack them. The opposite of MAGA behavior isn't a backlash per se. It's process-oriented legal action that results in fines, jail time, and prohibitions from doing business or holding office. It's establishments and the rule of law over cults of personality and fascist-adjacent boundary checking. In other words, throwing cold water on the fire they've lit, which is exactly what law enforcement is doing. No idea if it will matter on a larger scale. However, as person who used to sometimes vote GOP, I will not ever support this kind of behavior. They 100 lost me. And not just to the not voting this round population, either. Lindsey Graham said it right a few years back when he made a statement akin to, and I'm paraphrasing here, "If we hitch our wagon to DT it will destroy us." We do have language to describe this when talking about Islamic terrorists. It is termed issuing a fatwa. What the hell? That's not at all what a fatwa is. A fatwa is a legal ruling, not a call for political assassinations. Traditionally, not until it has affected the rich and powerful, at which point the backlash will be absolute. So Trump should reach that point sometime mid-next year or so. What a weird rabbit hole this sent me down. I thought this guy looked like the dude from Mallrats. Who I looked up and found was named Ethan Suplee, who has totally beefed up and looks completely different than he did in the 90s. Lol. Guy is like a bodybuilder now. Props to him. So I guess my statement is this guy looks like Ethan Suplee as he looked in the 90s. It's too hard to define. And like the term dog whistle can be used to basically interpret any statement from you political opponents in whatever way is most convenient for your argument. Take for example the 2017 congressional baseball shooting. You could easily argue that the hyperbole coming from the Democrats and left-leaning news sources painting Republicans as Nazis caused the shooter to act. Still beyond me, Chaya Raichik is walking about despite straight-up threatening hospitals. I swear there is a rot in media academia. Stochastic terrorism? Really? Is there an actual reason to use this term over incentivizing violence? Other than to be intentionally esoteric sensationalist and to avoid the inconvenient fact that incentivizing violence actually has an existing legal standard that you cannot meet? Is there a more descriptive term than saying that Trump is issuing a fatwa? Yes. It's called inciting violence. IDK. Why there need to be a fancy name about what it is? There's a world of difference between a fatwa that explicitly calls for violence against a person and this idea of stochastic terrorism, where if you criticize a person and then someone else commits violence that you didn't call for, you're responsible for the violence. I don't think so. At least, not a meaningful backlash, which would have to come from the right to change anything. Since it's always conservative leaders pulling this shit. It's not a new tactic. Remember that time Sarah Palin released a map with crosshairs over campaigning Democrats. And then Gabrielle Giffords on that map was shot in the head? Stochastic terrorism is an essential aspect of the conservative strategy. They send wave after wave of lone wolf shooters to terrorize the left into submission. They want to make it too stressful for Democrats to even engage in politics. Stochastic terrorism refers to political or media figures publicly demonizing a person or group in such a way that it inspires supporters of the figures to commit a violent act against the target of the speech.